Good evening and welcome to Sunset News on this Tuesday evening. As always, we bring you news, community stories, economics, weather and sports. I am Aina Kweo.
And I am Iriana Marie van der Walt.
In the news tonight, Judge David Munsu this morning in the High Court in Windhoek granted bail application for fish rot accused Nigel van Wyk. In the same ruling, co-accused Bernard Esau's bail application was rejected. Irene, you were present for many of the fish rot accused court appearances. Was this something to be expected when it comes to this ruling?
I think this was one that could have gone one way or the other, especially pertaining to Nigel van Wyk. Usually on the morning of a judgment, I like to have a small little prediction in my head. You know, it's a fun little game that I play with myself. But this is one of those where I knew I couldn't make a prediction because it could have gone one way or the other. Judge David Munsu, in my opinion, could have decided that maybe Nigel van Wyk might be implicated on common cause on some of the alleged offences, or he could have decided that, and he did in this case decide that Nigel van Wyk will not face sort of the same sentence and as serious a sentence as the co-accused if he is found guilty of the alleged offences. So it could have really gone one way or the other. So.
Okay. So what is the justification of the judge, giving one bail and the other not?
It most likely has to do with the seriousness of the offence, which is one of the conditions on which, or the conditions that are taken into account when bail is granted or denied. So among others, seriousness of the offence, the likelihood that an accused will abscond, meaning leave the country and not show up for their hearings in court, and so on and so forth. A lot of times an accused's personal circumstances are also taken into account when considering bail. So the charges that Nigel van Wyk faces are not as serious as the other fish rot accused. So the other fish rot accused stand on charges of fraud, of money laundering, of things like that, of not corruptly using their office and things like that. Nigel van Wyk basically just stands accused of the obstruction of justice, trying to remove some documents from an accused's home after the accused was arrested, and allegedly, he attempted to resist his own arrest when he was arrested. Okay. So smaller charges in comparison with the grand scheme and the scale of the fish rot case.
Okay. Irene, fish rot really disrupted us as a people, as a country. So I am glad to see that this matter is now in court and that, justice is somewhat on its way. Now moving over to our next story, the Okahanja Water Stewardship Project was commissioned this morning. The project cost AB InBev $4 million Namibian and will feed the municipality water line with 13 to 15 cubic meters per hour. In this video, plant manager Cholwe Mundede explains the importance of the project and the location that it will benefit from. Have a look.
Today marks a pivotal role as we gather to commemorate the commissioning of the Okahanja Water Stewardship Project in partnership with the Okahanja municipality. This initiative reflects our unwavering commitment to addressing the critical issue of water scarcity, extending beyond the boundaries of our breweries and reaching the heart of the community in Okahanja. Namibia being one of the 30 driest countries globally that faces significant challenges in water availability. Okahanja within this context is no exception. Water sources, particularly in areas like Five Rand and Vergenag, are scarce, posing hardships to the less privileged communities. The reality of water scarcity in Okahanja paints a stark picture. Insufficient rainfall, compounded by climate pressures, inadequate infrastructure, as Honorable Mayor had alluded to, and geographical constraints have created a scenario where access to clean and reliable water is a daily struggle for many of our people. This project addresses the pressing issue head on, recognizing that water scarcity is not merely an environmental concern, but a fundamental challenge to the economic, social, and environmental well-being of the Okahanja communities. As a company, we as AB InBev have noted the capacity constraints faced by the Okahanja municipality in supplying water, particularly potable water, in less privileged communities in Okahanja. To address this, ABI proposed and invested in a project to set up a water extraction plant that strategically utilizes identified boreholes owned by the municipality and a water storage facility positioned in proximity to low-income communities. These boreholes, in conjunction with the existing reservoir, will be integrated into the reticulation system. The water supplied to the reservoir will be carefully metered to ensure a consistent and adequate supply, aligning with the daily consumption needs as stipulated by the municipality. AB InBev Namibia's investment in collaboration with the municipality focuses on establishing a treatment plant to augment the water supply capacity. This initiative specifically aims to cater to the water requirements of low-income communities within Okahanja, including the less privileged communities of Vergenog and Fiver.
Well, Irene, this is such a great initiative, such a crucial project to relieve water challenges in our community. Now, what's your take on companies such as these, taking up projects like this?
I think that's something that happens a lot more in Namibia than in other countries. I think in Namibia we have a lot stronger sense of community, and that sort of encourages larger companies to still get involved because we still have that sense of community. But I think specifically pertaining to water, this is very, very, very important. I spoke with the Ombudsman in last week specifically about Human Rights Day, and he kept hammering that sanitation and access to water are very, very, very big problems pertaining to human rights in Namibia. You know, political freedoms of association and speech and things like that. He says we're doing pretty well on, but water, sanitation, housing were the points that kept coming up throughout my interview with the Ombudsman. So seeing better access to water is always going to be a good thing. Sorry.
And they say water is life. And on that note, we'd just like to also encourage more companies, more corporates to really take their social responsibilities seriously and maybe, take up these initiatives to, fill the gap of water scarcity in our community. Moving over to our next story, the Namibian government has been urged to adopt best practices being implemented in Ghana for the management of oil and gas resources. It follows a benchmark exercise after a study visit of the National Council Standing Committee on Agriculture, Environment and Natural Resources to the Parliament of Ghana in July this year. The committee had found that Ghana's approach towards managing oil and gas resources was admirable. It is evident that Ghana has a progressive approach to managing petroleum revenues with established laws and institutions governing operations in the sector, the report said. The committee also recommended the establishment of a public interest accountability committee which manages for resources generated in Ghana. The PIAC is an independent statutory body which works by monitoring and evaluating the law of government and other institutions and provides an independent assessment of petroleum productions. All right, Irene, Namibia has a new discovery of oil. Why do you think it's so important for us to safeguard our natural resources?
I think the fish rot scandal is a very good example of it. I mean, in the fish rot scandal, there's this alleged misuse of certain institutions that were in place, certain agreements, certain documentations and things that allegedly paved the way for the misuse of our resources. So oil and gas is one of those that we know the world is on our front doorstep right now. Everybody's looking for oil, everybody's looking for gas, and it's a non-renewable resource.
Yeah.
So as we use it in one place, we are losing it,
Yeah.
So this discovery is very, very, very important for Namibia. But also, on that same token, very important that we set boundaries and we say that this is how it is going to work and this is how it is not going to work. Obviously, a lot of people, the moment we discovered oil, started asking about jobs. You know, unemployment is a very, very big issue in Namibia. And, you know, giving those jobs to foreigners, I think, would be an injustice to a lot of qualified people in Namibia.
And just to add on that, I think it's also, I agree with what the Ghanaian government has done. I think it's very important to have an accountability committee so that you know that resources are equally distributed and they not only benefit a select few, but the entire population of a country. I think that is amazing. Moving over to our next story, activist Job Amupanda is today under cross-examination in the High Court in Windhoek in the case brought against him by the Deputy Minister of Finance and State Enterprises, Maureen Hinda Mbwede. She's demanding $1 million Namibian in damages for alleged defamatory remarks that Amupanda posted on his social media in July 2021. In the post, he said she was whiz during the liberation struggle and she would not think twice about taking out a knife. Okay, these are two political figures in court. What is your take on this?
So currently, I've actually been in that hearing a couple of times. So currently the sort of question is, what does whiz truly mean? You know, there is no set definition, and there have been times where courts have had to turn to definitions, especially in defamation. Courts will have to turn to the meaning of words.
Yeah.
So whiz being kind of a street term, a slang term, there isn't really any, you know, black on white definition for the word.
Yeah.
So that is, the last I was there and currently still ongoing sort of a topic of discussion, is what exactly does whiz mean? So Job Amupanda's camp has said that, you know, maybe whiz means she was really intelligent, you know?
Yeah.
Maureen Hinda says that whiz, you know, refers to a person of low morals. You know? So there's that debate currently going on, which is quite an interesting debate, and it will be interesting to see what it runs out to.
I'll definitely be following this court case because it's very, very interesting times. After the break, we bring you economic news. Stay with us.
Connection. It's in the human touch, the feeling of belonging. It inspires us and empowers us, creates clarity from complexity. It starts new conversations, unlocks the power of advice, and makes an impact on your life. At Alex Forbes, we pioneer insight to provide you with advice that connects your decisions of today to your impact tomorrow.
In economic news tonight, the Bank of Namibia is exploring the implementation of counter-cyclical capital buffer as an additional layer of resilience for banking sector. The governor of the central bank, Johannes Gravagab, he said so. This follows after the last meeting of the Bank of Namibia Microprudential Oversight Committee to assess a potential risk and vulnerabilities in the Namibian financial system. The CCYB is a capital requirement that banks need to build during economic expansion, which is witnessed by periods when credit is growing rapidly on top of the existing capital adequacy requirements, Gravagab said. These buffers also released during economic downturns to cover credit losses or to lend to the real economy without the banking sector resilience being jeopardized, he added. The Bank of Namibia will commence a consultation with the industry on the implementation of CCYB in Namibia. According to the MOC, Namibia's financial system continues to display resilience despite the current microeconomic conditions. Now let's have a look at our economic indicators. In Namibian dollar trades for 23 Namibian dollars 79 cents to 1 British pound, 20 Namibian dollars 44 cents to 1 euro, 18 Namibian dollars 98 cents to 1 US dollar. All commodities have increased except for Brent crude oil, which dropped with 1.29%. Gold went up with 0.27%. Platinum up with 1.08%, as well as copper with 0.43%. We return with international news shortly.
We've always had the bravery to stand up for what is Namibian. From protecting our homes to fighting injustices, we still celebrate what it means to us and raise a glass to those who show their bravery. No matter how they take on the world, with all this potential in the land of the brave, what will you do to make this Namibia your Namibia?
Let's get into some international news. Japan's Prime Minister Fumio Kishida is set to fire several top ministers who are reportedly under investigation for alleged fraud, local media said on Monday. Those to be axed potentially as early as this week include Kishida's right-hand man, Chief Cabinet Secretary Hirokazu Matsuno, and Yasutsushi Nishimura, the Minister of Economy, Industry and Trade, according to the reports. Now, according to Japan's influential daily Asahi Shimbun, the total number to be sacked will be 15, including several deputy ministers and parliamentary vice ministries, all along to be function formally headed by late Premier Shinzo Abe, one of the least 5 major groupings vying for influence and power within the ruling Democratic Party. Prosecutors are investigating allegations that the faction failed to report tens of thousands of dollars raised through fundraising parties, according to recent media reports. This is very, very interesting. 15 people to be fired at the same time, to be axed rather at the same time. What are your thoughts?
I would hate to be working in the government right now, because imagine, like one person just gets let go, and then you go, okay, but can the other person help? No, they were also fired. Imagine that. But I think that's also what a lot of Namibians were expecting. Again, we come back to Fishrot, right? They were expecting that it wasn't just going to be 1 or 2 ministers who had to step down. It was going to be multiple people. There are still a lot of people who believe that Fishrot actually goes wider than we think it does, that it's more than just those 10 people who are involved, but a lot of other people in our parliament, in our government, in government offices and so on. So, you never know. Right now we trust that it is only those 10 accused, but here's 15.
I like the accountability that is going on in this country. I think that everyone should be held accountable for, their own actions. Moving over to our next story, the United Nations said on Monday that it will need 46.4 billion next year to bring life-saving help to around 180 million people in desperate circumstances around the world. The UN said the global humanitarian outlook for 2024 was bleak, with conflicts, climate emergencies, and collapsing economies wreaking havoc on the most vulnerable. While global attention focuses on the current conflict raging in the Gaza Strip, the UN said the wider Middle East, Sudan, and Afghanistan were among the hotspots that also needed major international aid operations. For the size of the annual appeal and the number of people it aims to reach were scaled back compared to 2023 following a decrease in donations. Humanitarians are saving lives, fighting hunger, protecting children, pushing back epidemics, and providing shelters and sanitation in many of the world's most inhumane contexts, UN Chief Aid Martin Griffiths said in a statement. but the necessary support from international community is not keeping pace with the needs. He said the 2023 appeal was for $56.7 billion but received just 35% of that amount, one of the worst funding shortfall in the year. You know, Irene, it seems as though the UN funding keeps declining. Why is it crucial that international communities make efforts to keep the United Nations activities afloat?
I think the United Nations is one of those organizations that really just pulls us all together. You know, it's a very important organization to us because, and I mean, you can see by just the United Nations conventions and how quick we are to implement them and how much emphasis we place on implementing those conventions, you know. So the United Nations is very important to us. I, a couple of weeks ago, visited a school garden in Stamford that was, you know, implemented by the World Food Programme, which is an arm of the United Nations, you know, and that garden alone is making a huge impact in its community, and it's not the only one. So seeing all of those small impacts put together, it makes a big difference for a country, especially a country like Namibia.
All right. And on that note, we will return shortly with the weather. Stay with us.
Connection. It's in the human touch, the feeling of belonging. It inspires us and empowers us, creates clarity from complexity. It starts new conversations, unlocks the power of advice, and makes an impact on your life. At Alex Forbes, we pioneer insight to provide you with advice that connects your decisions of today to your impact tomorrow.
Let's have a look at the weather predictions for tomorrow. Katima Mulilo and Rundu, as well as Khobabes, can expect a maximum of 36 degrees, while Rundu and Enana can expect a minimum of 22 degrees. Hentis Bay and Swakopmund, as well as Walfish Bay, can expect a minimum of 16 degrees, while Keetmanshoop and Aranos can expect a maximum of 38 degrees, as well as Aramsvlei. We take a look at the sports package courtesy of Sports Rep. Don't go away.
Well, good day, viewers. On today's Sunset News, brought to you by Sports Rep, the CAF African Schools Football Championship 2023 has just been announced. Well, the CAF Under-15 Girls and Boys African Schools Football Championship will take place in Zimbabwe from the 14th to the 16th of December. As you can see there, the groups are Group A and B. In Group A, we have Zimbabwe, Malawi, Botswana, Eswatini, and Mozambique, while in Group B, Namibia is drawn with Zambia, neighboring country Angola, South Africa, and Madagascar. Well, the winners of the two zonal competitions will advance to the continental finals that are set to be played next year. But before that is decided, the top two teams in each group will advance to the semi-finals, where the two finals, the finalists will be decided that will play next year. And with that being said, we do have some Champions League football tonight to look forward to as we dive into round 6. Well, for Matchday 6, we do have a few exciting matches as we see Manchester United play host against Bayern Munich, Napoli play against Braga, Inter Milan host Real Sociedad, and Real Madrid travel all the way to take on Union Berlin. A few deciders will be played tonight, a few games will decide which teams are going through to the round of 16. Well, from Brian Monango, that's all that we do have for you from the Sports Desk. It is goodbye.
We've always had the bravery to stand up for what is Namibian, from protecting our homes to fighting injustices. We still celebrate what it means to us and raise a glass to those who show their bravery. No matter how they take on the world, with all this potential in the land of the brave, what will you do to make this Namibia yours?
And with that, we've come to the end of tonight's broadcast. Irene, thank you very much for joining us on Sunset tonight and, coming to share your opinions about the current trending stories.
Thank you for having me, Anna.
All right, make sure you join Sunset News on Facebook, on all any major platforms on weekdays, as well as on our website, which is called oneup2.com. Sunset News screens on DSTV 285 and GoTV 25 every weekday in Namibia. Now, this has been Sunset News. Please don't end your day without us. Good night.